Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. I'm glad to have you back here again today. Let's jump over to our cosmic weather, see what's going on. Solar wind is at 351.4 kilometers per second at the moment. Planetary K index is at a 1. Our coronal hole is still there. Looks about the same size as it was yesterday. Our chance for flares has dropped a little bit. Yesterday the M-class flare was 75%. Today we're down to 60%. And the X-class has gone down by half. It was up to 20. Now we're down to 10. Geomagnetic storm activity relatively low at this point in time. Nothing here we need to be aware of with the sun. Just that things have quieted down with the sunspot, 1598. Alright, moving along from there to our astrology for today. We're over here. Sun sign is Scorpio. Scorpio is a water sign. So on the conscious mind, we're dealing with water. Water is emotions, feelings. Water also is the way things flow. Think of the difference between a water where you have like a swimming pool versus a standing pond of water or a moving body of water. So the difference between the two, a standing body and a moving body of water, and that's something to contemplate. And we can relate all of these things to our emotions. Sometimes our emotions get stuck and don't go anywhere. Sometimes they're moving pretty good, or the way in which the flow of energy around us moves. Sometimes it feels stagnant, like we're in one place. Sometimes it moves along, like we're in the flow of a nice good stream, good river, maybe the rapids. So those are ways to look at water. And remember with Scorpio, Scorpio is that water that's down way deep in the darker areas where the sun's not getting all down there. So that way some of the water being churned up here is something that has some little darker elements. Doesn't mean the darker are bad, just means that's where things have been because they've been down deeper, buried a little bit. So in that process, things come up that you haven't been seeing in some period of time in some cases. All right, and so that's our sign for the conscious mind. Now unconscious, we're also at a water sign, Pisces. And Pisces are the fish that swim in two directions. In the tarot cards, Pisces would be related to the card of the moon. And the card of the moon, just like the symbol of the fish swimming in opposite directions, is a card about dealing with uncertainties, dealing with the unknown. Because in the card of the moon, the person would be walking down the path, coming out of the water, evolving through life, moving along the path of everything that is known until the time when we come to the point of the unknown. And we all, at some point in time, have to cross past that pillar of what we know into the unknown. And that's a lot of emotions and feelings that go along with that. But with that process comes the ideas of faith, belief in what we're doing. So we've got the Piscean water on the unconscious mind for today, and the Scorpio water on the conscious mind today. So today's big water day. Big water day. So lots of emotions, feelings, lots of movement of energy. Just see how you can work with that. You've dealt with water for a good portion of your life, if not all of it. So you know how water works. So those are the elements we're looking at today. Water and water. Now the moon phase is making its way up to a full moon. We're not quite there yet, 84% of the way. On the Mayan Oracle, we're at a 7-tone day, which is called the resonant tone of attunement. The kin for today is the dog right here in the middle, and the guide for today is the wind. So today is the resonant dog guided by the wind. The supporting cast members are the enlightenment of the sun, the nurturing ability of the moon, or the purification, and the playfulness of the monkey. All right, and a reminder, these times we're in right here. These are these 10 days in a row, these galactic activation portal periods, these intense days where the energy crosses. And remember how I said these 6 columns reflect these 6? Well, in this 6th column we had all of these energies here, so that's why it's reflected right here. Just the same as this. These 10, these 10. All right. Our phrase for today is I channel in order to love, inspiring loyalty. I seal the process of heart with the resonant tone of attunement. I am guided by the power of spirit. I am a galactic activation portal. And on the Gregorian calendar, it is the 25th of October. It's a Thursday, and it's 2012. All right. So, 57 days. 57 days is the number until we reach December 21st, 2012. What will happen between now and then? I figure there's probably going to be a lot going on. There definitely feels like there's a lot of change, a lot of things moving in the air. You know, I ask every day I ask people, some people that I meet that I've never talked to before, and other people that I know, about 2012, December 21st. And some of them don't even have any thoughts about it, and some of them have lots of thoughts about it. So it's interesting to see what's going on. And sometimes the people that don't have any thoughts about it are because in their particular circle, no one is talking about it. So they just assume that since no one in their circle is talking about it, and they don't bother, to go in any circles where they would be doing any research or seeing that information, they just don't even know that it exists. It's just not even part of their reality. And that's kind of interesting, considering the fact that we're 57 days from a time period that not just one person talked about or two people talked about, but entire civilizations spoke about this period of time. Entire civilizations. So are we to just write the Mayans off as being a completely wacky, out of touch society, and that their civilization and what they left behind of this Mayan calendar is just nonsense? I don't think so. Same with all the Aztecs, the Hopis, the Egyptians. I mean, we can go on and talk about the civilizations, right? So we can't just write those off. Something's going on. Something's going on, and one thing they all talk about is the process of change that is taking place is not just a physical change. And that's why people don't see and understand what's going on, because we live in a world that is sense-based, that people judge and base everything upon what they can see, hear, smell, or taste to their physical world. And if a person doesn't see something that's going on physically, they don't know it exists. A lot of these changes that are going on subtle levels, affecting the DNA. These are the messages that are coming through the crop circles that are showing us these subtle energy levels in our body are being affected. Now, just because someone's not aware of it doesn't mean they're not going to be affected. Everyone's going to be affected, and nobody is going to be unaffected by this. It's just how a person deals with it. And if you understand the process of what is happening, it makes it a little bit easier going through it, because you understand you're not just randomly, thinking some random thing is happening to you and has no explanation. There's an explanation. There's a shift taking place. Our ancestors have spoken about it. Now it's time for us to either listen to the wisdom that was provided to us or write it off and just go about our business. For those that are paying attention and watching, we're watching and paying attention. So this is another piece about 2012 right here. This is a really good piece. It's called Fasten Your Seatbelts. The transformation is happening along the lines of what I was just talking about. This comes from In 5D. I've played videos from them over time. They have some really good conscious material there and spiritually conscious material. And, well, here's another one example, and I think you're going to enjoy this. Here we go.
Hi, this is Greg from In 5D, and today we're going to be talking about the death, rebirth, and transformation of humanity through some current and upcoming astrological alignments. I mentioned this in a previous video and article called Transitioning into 5D Earth, and that transition might be happening quicker than we expected. What we're looking at are a few specific astrological alignments that specifically bring about revolution, death, and rebirth. As far as death is concerned, it refers to the death of ego or materialism or the way things are in order to bring about a reformation and a transformation of everything we previously knew as reality in a third-dimensional existence. For example, right now we are witnessing a total new moon eclipse of the sun in Scorpio, which brings about the Great Awakening, as told by YouTube user PantherJim1995 on his latest astrology forecast.
Total eclipses are the Great Awakening. They're the shake you to your boots energies that leave you more or leave you with a different understanding than you had before they came. With the eclipse being in Scorpio and being total, the opportunity here now is to, one, we want to shed the ego, but two, it's about transformation. Everything and anything is at play here. This is going to be a powerful, powerful, powerful eclipse. Scorpio rules the 8th house of death and rebirth in astrology. When we have the new moon total eclipse here, it's exactly what we're going to be experiencing. The ugliest society has to offer, the most extreme, the most unimaginable can occur here, as well as the biggest miracle, the greatest or most unbelievable revelation will happen here. You've got to be ready for both. This is going to be a total eclipse at its extreme points, and you're going to have to just be ready for everything.
According to astrologer Carl Boudreau,
on 11/23, Mars in Capricorn squares Uranus retrograde in Aries on the cusp of the 11th house. This square will release uncontrolled, angry, violent expressions of resistance and independence on an individual and a collective level. There is a strong possibility of riots, civil unrests, and outbreaks of warlike violence somewhere in the world. And it's likely to really provoke people who are already on edge. So on 11/23, things heat up. Having just completed its square to retrograde Uranus, Mars conjoins Pluto. On the 27th, Mars conjoins Pluto in Capricorn in the 7th house, close to the descendant. This can bring out explosive expressions of temper, anger, sheer outrage, and belligerence. We are looking at some very dangerously disruptive, violent vibes at the end of November.
astrologer Kelly Rosano sees this as a period for the Earth's ascension.
When we move to 4th dimension and 5th dimension, we will be using 100% of our consciousness. That means 24/7 we are awake and aware. We will be using more of our brain power. We will have access to talents, gifts, and ability we didn't even know we had. We will be moving to a consciousness that creates unlimited wealth, unlimited health, and total freedom. We will be moving from the prison matrix of limitation to unlimited resources and health, well-being, and vitality. While we finish up our 3rd dimensional karma through the end of 2012, we are cleaning out the unconscious. And this includes our personal unconscious and the collective unconscious. Anything that's been denied or projected onto others is emerging for healing, integration, and transmutation. Scorpio forces us to confront our fears and release what we've outgrown. This includes relationships, jobs, living locations, and situations, and beliefs and lifestyles. For instance, whatever is no longer serving you, keeping you down, making you feel bad, making you feel depressed, it's time to let it go. It's time to release it. And remember that it's not the letting go that causes pain. It's the holding on that causes our suffering. So what is dead and dying in your life? What is complete for you? What is begging to be born? So we're cleaning out the unconscious, and this can bring up a lot of pain memories from this life and past lives. And as we clean it out, we are releasing and letting go, and we are being filled with light so that we can rise in vibration, we can rise in consciousness, and we can move with Earth into fourth and fifth dimension.
Additionally, Kelly stated,
now Pluto is in close proximity to the Taurus full moon on October 29th. Pluto is in harmonious, supportive energy stream, streaming in positive energy to Sun in Scorpio, Moon in Taurus. Pluto is requiring us to purge our unconscious, to purge what no longer serves our highest good, to really look at what we're doing in the relationship. What are we doing in this job? What are we doing in this situation? Are we receiving our efforts of what we're putting in? Are we getting back what we're putting in? If not, it's karmic. And we are ending karma. We are ending third dimensional karma. So on the positive, we can dissolve negative attitudes, thought patterns, and we can experience heightened intuition, psychic sensitivity. We can own our authentic power. Now, in truth, there is nothing easy breezy about Scorpio or Pluto. They are intense, no nonsense, and disdain the superficial. So one of the things as we cycle through Taurus and Scorpio here is we want to be drinking tons of pure water, because this helps us flush out the unconscious. This helps us flush out our pain body. This helps us flush out the physical so that we feel strong in our body and are moving through whatever is coming up now. Because we are transmuting the last of our third dimensional karma through the end of 2012. This includes karmic relationships, karmic lessons, fear, and upsetting memories. We are purifying the unconscious mind that holds the records, memories of our past childhood as well as past lives. So whatever is coming up now, you don't want to attach to it. You want to release it and let it go.
I have links to the YouTube channels for Panther Gem 1995, Carl Boudreau, and Kelly Rosano in the More Info section of this video, and I highly recommend subscribing to their channels. There's a link to this must-read article in the More Info section of this video. Anyone watching this video will be one of the founding fathers or mothers of the new age of humanity. Pluto is in Capricorn right now, and that brings about revolution. The last time Pluto was in Capricorn was in 1776, the year of the American Revolution. And if you look around, revolutions are going on in many countries. So what we're looking at is a 3-year period where this will bring about a complete transformation of life as you know it. And you guys are going to be on the front line, and you're going to be needed to help to explain what's going on as well as leading by example. This, my friends, is in no way propagating fear, but while we live in this third dimensional reality, we need to understand how many things need to collapse in order to usher in a new age of abundance and prosperity for everyone. Like the Hopi said, we are the ones we have been waiting for. What do you think? Leave your comments below this video. That's it for now. This is Greg from In5D.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. Today I have 6 stories for us. First story comes to us from El Paso, Texas. This was on the 19th of October. These unknown lights were recorded on above the sky of El Paso on the 19th. All right, let's see what we've got here. There we go. We've got the triangle pattern we've seen. It looks like there's a fourth one. These definitely here are all look like they're a triangle. Are they all part of one object? Can't really see. Can you? Anyway, the link will be available so you can check it out, see what you think. But that's above El Paso. From El Paso, we go over to Brazil. This was on the 23rd, 36-second video. First, it seems to be fake. However, most fakes are only 10 to 15 seconds. What makes me think this is 100% real? The odd lighting of the craft bottom and the eyewitness who seen the video taking a UFO. Why only 36 seconds? Because often people are in a hurry to go somewhere or meet someone and probably think the UFO is just a publicity stunt. Yeah, some people see a UFO, still don't believe it's a UFO. Go figure. This one is lit up brightly that it wants to be seen, and at the beginning it looks like you can only see the light. When it gets closer, you can see the light only show some of the craft. There is a disc there with what looks like a window along its edges. Alright, so this is a pretty good sighting. And again, the question is this real? You know, just because it looks like it's a bit beyond our imagination doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't exist or isn't real. Remember, our ancestors and the stories in the Bible and other stories from the past are filled with objects that were seen that were described as these great glowing fiery objects. So something's going on. So there possibility does exist that we could be seeing also bright, glowing, fiery looking objects, things that are lit up like that. Alright, from Brazil we're going to go over to Florida, to the Keys. You can see there's a craft in the back there, cigar shaped. Look at this UFO as it makes a flyby of Frigate on the Florida Keys this week. From the photo screenshots, we can make out a disc craft that's about 25% of the size of the ship, about the length of 2 to 2.5 cars. It was heading out to sea to find an underwater base. Well, I guess that's just speculation of where it was going. Alright, we're right here, and we're going to see it momentarily as it goes by, or it goes. It was very fast. Chances are they might not have even seen it right away. Alright, that was in the Florida Keys. There's also another sighting in Florida. This in Fort Lauderdale. This is one of these light objects in the sky. And this was sometime this month. Okay, now these objects that are there, if you think about it, they're out in the midst of a blue sky, no clouds around, so it's not like you're going to miss it. So if I had to ask the question, did the occupant of this craft wish to be seen or not seen, I would have to say that the evidence is on the side that he wanted to be seen. Otherwise, why go out in the middle of a cloudless sky? Especially when you're glowing bright like that, right? So if they want to be seen, that's not a surprise. Element of surprise is not there, so they want to be seen. Okay, here's one that is a triangle over Hoboken. Let's see, the witness report was on Monday, the evening of the 23rd of October. Went outside behind my fire escape, behind my building where I can usually look up at the stars at night. And this is what was seen. Okay, you can see the right here. It's right at the bottom of the image there, and it's just a series of lights. It's kind of triangle-ish. Let me freeze it right there. There's 1, 2. When you enlarge the screen, you'll be able to see it better, but it's right in this area here. You can see it's just moving against the backdrop of the stars. As you see, I can kind of see that it does appear to be part of one craft. It's all moving together, and you can almost see something solid underneath between all of the lights there. Okay, next one and the last one for today. This was above Venezuela on the 23rd. This was a mass sighting. Now, we've had a number of these mass sightings recently. They seem to be increasing. Again, you don't fly out into a cloudless sky with your lights on unless you want others to see you. So there's a reason why they're here. They want to be seen for some reason. They want to be seen. So they're certainly not out to surprise anybody. Say, oh look, where'd they come from all of a sudden? They're there. They keep coming in and out, right? That's our UFO news for today. Let me jump away momentarily. I'll be right back. Stay tuned.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People shouldn't be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid.
Okay, continuing on. Alright, yesterday, remember, the Donald had the big announcement, and there was the announcements that were out, the speculation that he was going to come out that Obama sold cocaine, or that Obama and Michelle were having divorce papers. Well, Obama's talked about the cocaine himself, so there's no surprise there. And the divorce papers, that was just hogwash. The real story, in case you haven't heard it, the Donald, he made Obama an offer he can't refuse. Now, Obama's probably going to refuse it, but Donald thinks he can't refuse it. Let's listen to what he has to say. Here we go.
President Obama is the least transparent president in the history of this country. There's never been anything like it. We know very little about our president. I'm very honored to have gotten him to release his long-form birth certificate, or whatever it may be. Now, many, many people have questions, and very serious questions. I have a deal for the president, a deal that I don't believe he can refuse, and I hope he doesn't. If Barack Obama opens up and gives his college records and applications, and if he gives his passport applications and records, I will give to a charity of his choice, Inner City Children in Chicago, American Cancer Society, AIDS research, anything he wants, a check immediately for $5 million. The check will be given within 1 hour after he releases all of the records so stated. He'll be doing a great service for the country if he does this. If he releases these records, it will end the question and indeed the anger of many Americans. They'll know something about their president. Their president will become transparent like other presidents. So all he has to do to get $5 million for a charity or charities of his choice is get his colleges to immediately give his applications and records, and also to release his passport records. When he does that, to my satisfaction, if it's complete, this check is delivered immediately. A lot of people will be very, very happy to see this happen. Frankly, it's a check that I very much want to write. I absolutely would be the most happy of all if I did, in fact, make this contribution through the president to these charities. One caveat, the records must be given by October 31st at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Mr. President, not only will I be happy, and by the way, totally satisfied, but the American people will be happy. And you know what? Those charities will be very, very happy. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, there you go. So, is this a precedent that is being set now, that leaders no longer have to do their jobs, and when they don't, we can bribe them with money? Come on now, here you go, I'll give you $5 million if you do this. Now, what's his options? Okay, Obama has defrauded the country by not showing his records. So now McDonald's comes out and says, Obama, I'll give you $5 million for your favorite charity if you just admit to the public, show them the papers that show that you've been lying. Well, he's not going to do that. They're going to have to be forged documents like the other ones. Otherwise, he's going to be proven to be a liar. He's going to be arrested and go to jail. Now, do you think he's going to want to go to jail? Is that worth $5 million to him or to a charity? No. Obama's not going to do anything. This is just all a joke. I don't know what he's doing out there to his satisfaction. Yeah. Whatever. Another one of the crazy things that happens. Silly nonsense. But we'll see if Obama responds. We'll see what he does. He's got to the 31st. We shall see. All right. Now, elections going on. Uh-oh. Looks like we've got some problems with voter fraud. In Guilford County here, voters are saying ballot cast for Romney came up Obama on machine. On Monday, several voters complained that their election ballots cast a wrong vote. All the complaints were made by people who voted at the Burr Mill Park polling location. One of the voters, Cher Cormelis, says that she cast her ballot for Governor Mitt Romney, but every time she entered a vote, the machine defaulted to President Obama. I was so upset that this could happen. Well, Cher, I guess you're just going to have to accept it, because this has been happening all over the place. And you probably haven't been paying attention when it's been happening, thinking it will never happen where you are. But guess what? It's happening when you are, where you are. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of folks who are going to find out across this country that this stuff is happening. And they'll be surprised, like, really? When did this go on? It's been going on for a long time. It's going to be funny and interesting when we see people around us who are opening their eyes for the first time to see what's really happening out in the world. You know, at those moments, it's always, I always find it a moment where you want to have a little compassion for that person who's just seeing things for the first time, seeing the corruption, and they don't want to be upset, even though there's been all the times before where they've denied and accused and, you know what goes along with all that, and suddenly they're like, whoa, what's going on? And they see something. You want to encourage that, because at least they are now seeing with good eyes. Okay, so this story here falls in the category of things that of themselves don't really mean a big deal. But when you put this in all of the puzzle, it means something. It shows part of a trend. Why did the Bundesbank secretly withdraw 2/3 of its London gold? 2 days ago, we reported that the German Court of Auditors demanded that the German central bank, the Bundesbank, verify and audit its official gold holdings consisting of 3,396 tons held mostly offshore, namely New York, London, and Paris, at least according to official documents. It also called for repatriation of 150 tons in the next 3 years to perform a quality inspection of the gold. Today, in a surprising development via the Telegraph, we learned that none other than the same Bundesbank, which is causing endless nightmares for all other broke European nations due to its insistence for sound money, decided to voluntarily pool 2/3 of its gold holdings held by the Bank of England, according to a confidential report referenced by the Telegraph. Bubba claimed 940 tons, reducing its BOE holdings from 1,440 to 2,000 in 2000 to 500 in 2001, allegedly because storage costs were too high. This is about as idiotic as an excuse as the Fed canceling its reporting of M3 in 2006 because the costs of calculating the underlying data outweigh the benefits. So why did Bubba repatriate the gold? Well, there's a lot more to the article on why that occurred. The only thing that you need to take from this is this bank has just drawn out a lot of gold. And this trend is going on around the country and around the world, where banks and bank representatives and workers and CEOs, they're pulling out of the banks. Something's going on. So there are those preparing. So this is just one of those. Make a mental note of this and just use it as another piece of the puzzle. Okay, here's a piece I want to introduce you to. It's 16, just about 17 minutes long. I'm only going to play a few minutes of it. The link's available. This here is a really good research compilation. It's called The 3 Coming False Flag Attacks. Now, it's important that we are aware about false flag attacks, because if not, guess what? We get fooled and another 9/11 happens. And people believe the official thing the government tells them. It's happened over and over and over. The question is, when are people, not just people, when are Americans finally going to learn? That's the question. Here we go.
False flag operations are covert operations designed to deceive the public in order to make an attack look like some outside force carried it out. This gives a nation the ability to start a war and make it look like they were the victims. This is very important if the public does not want war, and it also limits the ability for opposing interests to stop the new war. Any opposition, foreign or domestic, would immediately be put in the same category as those that they claim did the false flag.
You're either with us or you're with the enemy.
False flags do not happen very often, but when they do, they change the paradigm we operate in. We all see how the world has been changed forever after 9/11. Before 9/11, we would not have put up with such a loss of privacy and a loss of liberty, much less a decade of war looking for weapons of mass destruction or men in caves.
Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere. Nope, no weapons over there. Maybe under here.
With the supposed death of Osama bin Laden and the supposed end of military actions in Iraq, I feel the decks are cleared for the next big event. Historically, false flags are military in nature, but I feel going forward they will morph into something much worse. Every system built on debt needs constant debt to be created, or the system implodes. If the criminal elite can expand the debt system through asset bubbles, then all is well. But what happens if they can't get more debt created? They need to either steal other assets to provide capital for the system, or they need a reason to create massive debts that the masses will sacrifice for. Wars do both. With war, the criminal elite can confiscate the natural resources of other nations and provide the context to create massive amount of new debt. Our paradigm is failing, and there is no fixing it. There is so much inequity built into the system at every level. The only answer is for a complete collapse. This collapse will leave a generational scar so large that humanity might never consider again fractional reserve banking or the war machine it enables. Until that collapse, the criminal elite will do what they have always done, create more debt and more wars. The criminal elite see their power paradigm collapsing on its own cancerous self. A silver default, debt ceiling doom, dollar collapse, peak oil, or whatever leads ultimately to the end of the Anglo-American petrodollar financial paradigm. The Anglo-American elite might need to pull off 3 false flags in order to fail forward. This might include the typical military false flag, an economic false flag, and an informational false flag. These dramatic measures will seem necessary to the criminal elite, and the horrific toll on humanity will be justified in their minds. This societal upheaval will be time for the criminal elite to settle all the threats to their power paradigm, much like the end of Godfather 1. The first of the 3 threats to their power is the death of the dollar. The dollar is the basis of all the criminal elite's power. Without it, or an equivalent of it, they have no means to create debt that enslaves nations, states, corporations, and citizens of the world. This debt money provides the criminal elite an unlimited checkbook to fund the world's most powerful military that controls the world's natural resources so that their corporations can harvest them. It also protects the shipping lanes that transports the rest of the world's trade. This debt money also buys political power for which the elite rig the game in their favor. And finally, the criminal elite used their money to own all the major media in order to distract the masses from the real problem in the world, the debt-based banking system, and the paradigm it finances. It is no secret that the dollar is going to die. It is a mathematical inevitability. Nothing can stop the ultimate collapse of the dollar. Our monetary system is based on debt, and in order for it to work, more debt needs to be created every year in excess of the debt and interest accrued the year before. If it does not happen, there will be a massive wave of defaults that would suck the system dry in a few weeks. The elite don't necessarily care if the dollar lives or dies. They just want to control the world's currency. They would ultimately like to have a global international currency that would be far away from pesky national politicians. So if the dollar is doomed, how can the criminal elite fail forward? They can create a financial crisis so incredible that desperate people would beg the elite to make the pain stop. They did this in 1907 to set the stage for the Federal Reserve. They did this in 2008 when they held up America for $700 billion. They will do it again and use the line of stability as the main reason why we should accept their new corrupt plan. I don't think that they could pull off something this large without a much larger distraction to silence the masses. The only thing big enough to scare the masses under the protective hug of the elite is another world war. This war can put an end to another threat of the current world order, the anti-hegemon. Non-Anglo-American nations like China, Russia, Iran, Venezuela, among others, have been gaining an incredible amount of power. I call these group of non-Anglo-American powers the anti-hegemon, as they have no uniting ideology, race, or religion, other than standing in opposition to the hegemonic power of the Anglo-American Empire. The anti-hegemon nations have so much to gain from a retreat of the Anglo-American Empire from the world stage. Countries like China, Russia, Iran, Venezuela, India, and many more, to a lesser extent like Japan, Korea, Germany, and France, have been on the losing end of the Anglo-American Empire for over a century. These nations have a history of Anglo-American losses like the Cold War, Opium Wars, Operation Ajax, the CIA attempted coup of Chavez, British colonization of India, apartheid, Hiroshima, the closing of the gold window by Nixon, and Waterloo.
Okay. So, you can hear it's a lot of good information, right? So, I'm going to encourage you to click on this link and listen to the rest of this show. Listen to the rest of that information. It's only 17 minutes, so we've listened to like 5.5 already. Alright, now, this piece here, I want you to hear. This is another one that it's a long piece. I don't know that I'm going to play the whole thing. I'm going to go through, and this is from Lone Wolf. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and read some of this to you here. Okay. NIBIRU is certainly one of the planets we've talked about for a long while, and there's speculation that's going on out there. Does it exist? Does it not exist? Well, this is some really interesting information that he's got on called the disturbance of the planets, and strangely enough, a number of astronomers who have talked about it ended up dying mysteriously. So this video itself is a really good research to kind of see what's going on. And like I said, I'm only going to play a little bit of this here. I'm not playing the soundtrack to this because it's got music on here that I'm pretty darn certain if I play this, it's going to do a copyright ding, and so they're very particular over at YouTube. Okay, so what this is showing right here, it's going through a variety of alignments of the planets, and it's showing a particular alignment of Jupiter and how it's being disturbed, and using Jupiter as a point of reference of how Jupiter over the course of the years has adjusted its path. It's adjusted. And so let me just zip along here, and then when it goes through, and it's going to show you now how far it's moved from the ecliptic. Here it goes. It's going to give a so there's definitely been some movement and stuff going on that has brought the attention to a variety of astronomers. And zip forward here. In studying this, a number of them found that there was something going on, but as you could see, one after another, these astronomers have ended up dead in a variety of accidents, moped crashes, car accidents, mysterious deaths. So it appears that they may have been onto something, may have discovered something here, or else why end up dead? And all of them were studying this event. Okay, so you're kind of seeing the trend here. Something's going on. And as you continue going through, it talks about the various comets coming into our system as another sign of something taking place. And the crazy weather patterns that are taking place, all again more which used as evidence that NIBIRU is out there. And then finally showing positions and talking about positions of NIBIRU on it being out there and looking at the signs and just basically staying alert. Be aware. And I think that's just good advice because, again, we're at this time, 2012, where this has been talked about. If NIBIRU shows up, no one should be surprised because we've read about it, we've talked about it, we've heard information channeled from a variety of sources off planet that have talked about it. There should be no surprise, right? So, just par for the course. Okay, this piece right here is about an underwater city found in Bermuda Triangle. October 22nd, Prensa Latina. A group of Canadian scientists said today they have discovered the ruins of an underwater city in the Bermuda Triangle, which they related to Atlantis. The legendary continent disappeared 10,000 years ago. The researchers, led by experts Paul Wieswig and Pauline Zalsicki, found the remains of the city located about 700 meters south of the eastern coast of Cuba by using a robot. The images captured by the robot show monumental buildings, including 4 giant pyramids, one of them glass, a sphinx, and several engraved monoliths. According to Zalsicki, the city found belongs to a pre-classic period of history of the Caribbean and the Central America, populated by an advanced civilization similar to the Teotihuacan culture. Atlantis, mentioned and first described by the Greek philosopher Plato, disappeared, according to legend, by a flood, a major earthquake, or a volcanic eruption over 10,000 years ago. For years, the myth has inspired numerous musical, literary, and movie works. So, there you go. What do you think about that one? An underwater city. They knock on the door, see if anybody was home. Okay. This piece right here is a piece that I found and I thought I'd play just for fun. Just for fun. Now everybody loves Elvis, right? Who doesn't? And one of the thoughts about Elvis, just like there is with other celebrities who die when they're often young and have millions of fans around the world, there's often the thought that they fake their death. So this is one of these videos, just a little fun bit of information here that someone put together about this guy named John Cotner and the possibility that he could be Elvis. Let's check it out, see what we think.
Hi, thanks for stopping by. I made this video for all those who are curious about the mystery men.
They said the heart is Elvis. Charlie Hodge was standing outside the door, and he said it just really looks bad. And when I went in and saw this boy and the work that they were doing to him, I just said, please stop, because, you know, this boy is gone. But it was very evident from his appearance that he had been dead sometime,
I was upstairs in the bedroom and I went upstairs to talk to him. He wasn't breathing. I got to put his leg in the bed.
I ran upstairs and ran to the bathroom. And he was on the ground in the bathroom. And I got down, felt it, and I knew that he was gone.
Do you ever feel communication with your father? Do you ever feel a channeling? Some people claim that they feel their father or their mother departed around them.
I don't know. We're getting in a hairy, controversial field here, and I'd rather...
Well, you can feel it or feel it.
No, I mean, if I don't want to answer.
You don't have to, but in the court.
We all just worked together and did it. It took me about 3 months after Elvis was gone to realize he was gone. You know, we did what we had to do for his sake. For his sake.
I think that's it.
Just something fun to consider. I mean, come on, life can be so serious. Why not just take time out to consider whether or not Elvis is still alive, right? Thank you very much. All right. So yesterday on the show, what was this? It's old stuff. Okay. Yesterday on the show, I went ahead and I introduced you to the Keys of Enoch, Book of Knowledge, Keys of Enoch. And I read the prologue. Today I'm going to read just a little bit from the introduction. The introduction's several pages long. I'm just going to read the opening paragraph, and then I'm going to move forward from there into the actual first key itself, so you can see a bit of what this is about. So, what I'd like you to do is just sit back and relax. Sit back, relax. Okay, its first part is from the introduction, explaining to you what happened with this experience. While I was in the act of prayer, calling upon the name of the Father, asking to know the meaning of life and for what reason I was called into the world, my room suddenly became full of a different type of light. And in the presence of this light, a great being stood before me, who announced that he was Master Ophanim Enoch, This being had so much love and light, I felt as if I were a child in the presence of this divine master Ophanim. The being asked if I were ready to go with him into the Father's midst, and I said I was. And with that a great field of light was placed around my body, and I sped upwards into the heavens, first into a region of stars called Merak and Musidia. And while I was in this region of the heavens, I was told about the earth and my temporal homeland upon the earth. I was told how those who govern the power upon the earth, are those who have fallen from the highest heavens and now indwell in the stars known by earthmen as Ursa Major. From this threshold gate they control one of the major entrance points into our local system from the higher heavens. I saw how the masters from previous cycles were cast down to these stars from which they now govern the lower planetary worlds, and the karmic penalties that were assigned to each. I was shown how Earth was part of a biochemical testing zone, using both fallen and divine thought forms in determining what type of intelligence could eventually free itself from the countless physical rounds of existence controlled by the fallen hierarchies inhabiting the regions of Ursa Major, Ursa Minor, Polaris, and Thuban. These realms contain beings in imperfect bodies of light who use their power to establish themselves as gods in the lower realms. And I was taken from this region of the stars into the midway station of Arcturus, the major programming center of the Galactic Council, serving the Father on this side of our galaxy, which is under the direction of the Council of Nine, the governing body of our local universe. I was shown the network and the courts used by the spiritual brotherhood to abdicate decisions pertaining to the planets involved in our region of space. I was taken from Arcturus through a series of constellations which seemed to be of different light density, where multiple saddle-shaped concentric fields intersected so that a threshold was formed running through the star spaces connected with Orion. My physical body at the threshold gate had to exchange its garment of flesh for a garment of light as I passed through the star regions served by the Brotherhoods of Light. From there I was cleared to go on into the greater paradise of light called the seventh heaven. There the thresholds of this region of the sky were full of eyes of burning fires of the Elohim masters who governed the higher domains of power. From the burning fires, tongues of light projected out to form ore stations, or light stations. Amidst the ore stations I saw wheels within wheels, the vehicles of the Ophanim messengers serving the lower heavens. These Ophanim messengers join other angelic orders of light, proclaiming Kadosh, 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 Adonai Sabaoth, which means holy, holy, holy is the Lord God of hosts. I was then taken by Enoch to the region known as Siph, in the great star field of Orionis. From there I was taken into the presence of the field of light known as Mintaka, and within the field of light I was met by a great being of light, a being of great majesty called Metatron, the creator of light in the outer universe. And my spirit was so overwhelmed with the presence of the higher light, I would not have been able to maintain my body of light were it not for the body of Metatron. Metatron then took me into the presence of the Divine Father, and I went into his presence through a door of the Omega Orion, which serves as the grand entrance to the regions of pure energy emission. The presence of the Father was so rarefied that only Metatron could take me into the pyramid of living light, the throne where I saw the Ancient of Days face to face, with his flowing white hair and his face so overwhelming love and joy. No words can express the eternal and the sanctification of knowing that the Father called me into his presence to tell me for which reason I had left behind my toga to take up this perishable body of time to serve this planet, this pearl within the rosary of stars that are set on this edge of our conscious time zone to glorify his right hand. And in the presence of light I proclaim, Thou art worthy, O Lord, Yahweh, to receive glory and honor and power, and Thou hast created all things, and for Thy pleasure the eons were created. And in the presence of his throne of light I bowed my head, as I saw the 24 elders of light who were around and about his throne singing praise of Kadosh, 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 Adonai Sabaoth. And I also saw on the right hand of the Father Christ Jesus. And Metatron told me that these lords of light are worthy to sit in the presence of the Father, for they chose periodically to leave his presence and go out and create the other worlds of light, known as the worlds of the Elohim. Before the throne of the Father I was told of my work as being part of Enoch to serve the universes of the paradise sons, who in turn form the councils of light that receive commandments of light and ordinance of fire projection into the 24 elders of light to create a new universe. And I was told by my guides, Enoch and Metatron, that I was not to eat of the food of the false powers of the earth, nor encourage my seed to marry with the fallen spiritual races of the earth, nor join in false worship of those who serve the fallen mind energies of the earth. But my reason, my being, was to exalt the fathers, that all knees should bend, and that all heads should acknowledge the time is at hand for the externalization of the Father's hierarchy, so that his kingdom will come on earth as it is in heaven. I was taken to many other regions and instructed in the revelation of how the many mansions of the Father are opening to the birth of a new heaven and a new earth. While I was before the throne, I saw a burning scroll rolled as a cylinder, and out of this burning scroll a light was projected into my third eye, which imprinted the scenario abstracts that contained the keys that are to be used for the marriage of the bride and the bridegroom. The keys reveal this overlap between the higher evolution and the human evolution as man is taken through his alpha and omega. These scenario abstracts were projected into glowing geometries of light, which are part of the fire letters used to transcribe knowledge from Father Universe to Son Universe to Shekinah Universe, in connecting one eternity of time with another eternity of time. So, that is part of the introduction. We're going to leave it at there, because that was a bit lengthier than I had first started off to read, but well worth it. So close your eyes and imagine now for yourself. The opportunity exists for you to be able to make contact with spirit in such a way to be able to truly understand who you are. Imagine that your mind being filled with information. And though the information be greater than your consciousness understands, it is not beyond comprehension for the unconscious, where it resides until ready to be brought to the surface. And imagine that standing at the doorway to your consciousness, watching both the doors to conscious and an unconscious, is a guide, a guard at the door, watching that the thoughts come in are thoughts that only honor the I am and anything other than love or respect or any of the positive good qualities are pushed aside and not allowed to enter into the temple. And last but not least, imagine that although the chakras are fully activated, the body is fully energized, and let's just think a positive thought for the world as we absorb all of the information being presented to us from all over the planet. And let's just be open and aware to all the energy that is hitting all of our chakras, so that we are open to all of the changes taking place on all the very subtle levels that they are happening. Now let's slowly bring our energy and attention back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. and 1 coming back to the present moment. Happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Alright, there you go. That's the end of our show for today. You know, I was only going to start off and read just first paragraph, but there's just so much information there, and it's so important to know and understand the journey that J.J. Hurtak, who wrote this book, went through. So now you've got an intro. Now you've heard the prologue. Tomorrow we're going to get into the keys, and we're going to start with key number 1, and we'll see where it goes from there. We'll see where it goes from there. Anyway, thanks for being here today. Enjoy yourself. Have a great day, and I'll be back tomorrow with more news and information. Peace. I'm out of here.